From the East Coast to the West Coast, we are everywhere true crime is. We are asking for the public's help. We are searching in the woods. We are doing what it takes here on the Bullhorn Betty channels to find answers to the most alarming cases we have been watching on the news. I can tell you personally that I have traveled this entire country seeking these answers and bringing that content right here to you here on the Bullhorn Betty channels and Bullhorn Betty Crime Stories. We are happy with the work that we've done. We brought many answers to the public, and we have defied mainstream media in our pursuit of the truth in these cases. We will continue to work, we will continue to fight for these victims, and we will continue to tell their stories here on my channels. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty brand of channels and the Coffee Club. Thank you for your love, thank you for your support, and more importantly, thank you for allowing me to bring these victims' stories to each and every one of you, advocating for each of these victims. God bless you. God bless America, and more importantly, God bless our victims. Well, hello, my beautiful people at TikTok. I'm Bullhorn Betty, and I cover true crime. It's nice to see you, Amanda. Good morning. To all the beautiful people that are out there in TikTok land this wonderful morning, ML, Vicky, it's nice to see you. We have a lot to cover today. Good morning. Happy Monday, everyone. Happy Monday. I was getting blown away in the hurricane. If you guys have not heard, I was definitely in the hurricane. It did a lot of damage here. A lot of damage across multiple states. Multiple casualties have been reported. And there's a lot of heavy cleanup. Oak, it's nice to see you, Ron. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. We're going to be getting started here in just a few moments on Sebastian Rogers. This is the back of my house. This is my shed. And yes, there was power outage here because of my neighbor's Australian pines that they don't like to keep clean. As soon as power was back on, of course, I had to make a pot of, this is not chili, this is red sauce. I had meat and ready for red sauce, and then the power went out. I couldn't make it, so I was struggling, but we finally got several gallons of red sauce made. And if people are wondering how Delilah was doing during the storm, she slept most of the time. She was very comfortable. And she was a little too comfortable for my comfort. There was a lot of noise going on outside during the hurricane, and she just chilled like a wonderful champ that she is. We've been talking about Sebastian Rogers, about what has happened to him. If you don't know about this case is pretty crazy. Sebastian Rogers is a 15-year-old autistic boy that disappeared from inside his locked home and has not been seen or heard from since. Since this case has kind of gone national, there's been a lot of chaos. It's been a circus in many instances, because while we're trying to follow the leads and trying to follow the information and the facts and where they go and what they could mean, a lot of people are taking a different road and interjecting a lot of misinformation and disinformation into this case in an effort to distract people from the facts of this case, because the facts of this case don't look good. At the end of the day, this child went out on Sunday with his mother and allegedly had a great day, went to BJ's, went home, put away groceries, went out to a bowling alley, played video games, went to steak at a steakhouse. A very overstimulating day for somebody that's a high functioning autistic boy. And a lot of people that I've talked to that have autistic children said that this would most likely, this much activity in one day could put a child that has autism in a very bad mood. It could overstimulate and keeping them where they can't rest. This is on a Sunday. He needed to go to go to school on a Monday. And there were lights on the outside of his house that came about. And so we've been kind of curious about this case for quite some time. We've been covering it with boots on the ground. And this child has a lot of questions in the disappearance, okay? There's no video evidence from law enforcement that can say which direction this child went, or even if he walked out of his house willingly. They brought in scent dogs. While we heard with boots on the ground, the scent dogs were tracking. We learned after the fact. Now, we could be getting bamboozled because this law enforcement body doesn't mind deceiving the public. So we definitely know that they are capable of doing that. So are they capable of having a scent on this child and saying it was a false hit? There were witnesses on the ground. Okay, this is where the issue, so many cover. Yes, it does feel cover up-ish, without a doubt. And there were witnesses on the grounds from that very community that were out there with law enforcement searching. So there was actually a civilian with the canine unit that ended up lunging into the water. And what that witness stated is that the officer said he's never had his dog do that before. So this is very, very interesting as to why we have all of this weird activity with the animals, with the search dogs, the scent dogs. But yet it wasn't Sebastian's scent. Could it have been somebody else's scent that was being followed? That's got to be one of the questions that we absolutely ask. Now, yesterday on my live, I'm not going to rehash everything that we covered yesterday, but this right here is a very important statement, because we learned from the Dutch's second interview that happened on March 17th that Cathy had changed her story yet again and included a niece that she needed to pick up and an aunt that she needed to meet at BJ's that morning, that mid-morning, early afternoon time frame when we heard that they went to BJ's. From day one, my gut is pointing towards the home life. It's off 100%. Absolutely, Shelley. Absolutely. But we did learn from the fourth interview. It was the very fourth interview. It was the Duchess of March 17th that this cousin was interjected into this mix. But this is a statement that was made, I think it was made on February 26th or February 27th from Aunt Melissa. This is Chris's sister, and she posted, "I was with him Sunday afternoon shopping. I took my sister and her daughter, plus my sister-in-law and Sebastian shopping that afternoon. I can tell you he was in a good mood. They were headed home to put groceries away when I last saw him." So this almost contradicts the statement of the mother of her having to leave around 11 a.m. to go pick up the niece, to have the niece meet the aunt at BJ's. And everybody's like, well, why would she have to go pick up the niece? Where was the aunt? These questions started flying. Well, we now know it wasn't her. It was Aunt Melissa that went and picked up the other aunt and niece, not the mom. And this is from their own statement, because this happened February, like I said, 26th, 27th. I don't remember the exact date, but it was like a day or two, maybe even as late as February 28th. But we didn't start hearing the changes in the story until March 17th, several weeks later. So there's been a lot of conversation when it comes to that. This right here, a lot of people believed that this camper here was being sold by a family member of Katie's for the benefit of Chris and Cathy. Well, I did speak to Crystal. Crystal assured me that this is definitely not their camper, and I actually looked at it. It's much larger, much longer than the camper that we know, the Montana that Chris and Cathy own. This is a much longer camper. It does have a lot of similarities with the decals, but it's a totally different camper in and of itself. And actually, this one here is affixed to a base. So it is mobile, but it was stationary inside a mobile home park. And this has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with Chris and Cathy. So I had a lovely conversation, short conversation with Crystal, and she really wants Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers found, or those responsible, in jail. Anybody that's responsible for their family member's missing loved one. So this has been affecting a lot of people, but I did want to clarify that because we did bring this up, that it is possible, maybe this is the reason why people believe that Chris and Cathy sold their camper. It doesn't believe that that is the case. So I just wanted to make sure that we clarified and we were very factual on this channel for everybody, because I know everybody is looking for information. Silver on the Scene is a YouTube content creator that's been out there, boots on the ground, searching. And you guys know that we went to Memphis and found out a lot of information. We were learning that Chris had not showed up for work until 5:15. I said, that just doesn't make any sense. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I was so sick of guessing that I actually went out there and sat out on a sidewalk waiting for people to show up for work so I could question them about the coming and goings of the project there at St. Jude's. And one thing that I learned very quickly is that Chris didn't show up at 5:15. He didn't start his work until 7 a.m. and he would have been there anywhere between 6:30, 6:45, around that area. And that's what I've maintained ever since from coming back from Memphis. Well, Silver on the Scene, another YouTube content creator, went out there and actually spoke to someone, a supervisor, Chris's boss, somebody of that nature. It could have very well been Tom himself. Many of you guys know that Tom was the supervisor or the foreman that ended up kicking Chris off the job that morning that his stepson disappeared. But we didn't know, few things that we didn't know that we learned from Silver on the Scene. And that was his job didn't even know he had a missing child. Didn't even know anything was going on. So this was a statement that was garnered very early on in the case. And this was the foreman. This is the person that actually kicked him off the job. And he said, I work at St. Jude's. CP was operating the crane for us. February 26th. I had issues with his performance and his attitude and demeanor all morning so bad I requested for him to be removed off of the job. At this time, they requested him to be removed off the crane by 10 or 11 a.m. One thing that was confirmed from Silver on the Scene is that he was kicked off at 11 a.m. and we are going to dovetail and tell you exactly why that's so critically important. I requested him to be removed by the crane by 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. He was replaced and he stormed off the job site. We started work at 7 a.m. So what Silver on the Scene learned is that he for sure was on the job by about 6:30 that morning, and he was for sure kicked off that job by 11 a.m. Now, there's some other things that aren't so good, but we'll get over this. That's interesting. I know he's back because people were asking, well, did he come back? And apparently he said, unfortunately, I saw his truck in the parking lot this evening. I don't think that was going to stay there very long. But many people believe that, especially early on, I know because I fielded a lot of those requests or a lot of those questions, was Cathy having an affair? And at that time, I actually had sources, boots on the ground sources out there on the scene, and was able to have them ask questions to some of the neighbors, ask questions to some of the people that they have information, connections with. And I learned very early on that was debunked. There wasn't any type of, because nobody was coming over to the house. That was pretty easy to clear up. These people lived a sheltered life. They didn't have a whole lot of people coming over to the house, family, friends, and stuff like that. Did they do things with families and friends? Yes, they did. Or excuse me, mostly family, not so much friends. but there was not a lot of activity going on in their house. So it was very easy to put those out. However, we heard rumors that during Chris being away from his home, that there was possibility of him doing that as well. I did not find any connection like that at the St. Jude's Project, but we did find somebody that was coming forward. And this is where it starts getting a little hinky, so to speak. Give me just a second so I can read this for you. It says, "That's right. I called and talked to a supervisor concerned about the safety issues with him. A big no-no, cell phone in tower cranes. Shame. So they're not supposed to have any type of phones inside their tower cranes, which goes against their policies." And the story that we were told that Chris was up there when Katie called him that morning, and he had his one button for the operator telling him to move the crane and his cell phone in the other ear. Well, that's a big no-no in these cranes for safety reasons. But we also learned that he didn't get to work until 6:30, and we learned that the call didn't go into the sheriff's office until 6:33. So it is my belief that he actually waited until he was on the job on grounds to make the call to the sheriff's office, and actually didn't end up going up his crane until after that conversation with law enforcement was over and done with. But that's just my opinion. We also learned a little bit more, and this one right here is from another person that has worked with him. He said, "I didn't like him from day one. I still don't like him to this day. He thought he was better than everybody else." We've heard that about both the mom and the stepfather of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. But here's the kicker. When we was working in Alabama, and when we were working in Alabama, we didn't even know he was married to KP because he was messing around with another woman from the bar. Many people noticed that Chris never wears his wedding band, ever. He also goes on to say, "I've worked with Chris in 2021. What's your opinion of Chris?" And that's when he said he didn't like him from day one. A few things that we learned from Silver on the Scenes work and going out to Memphis related to this case, the Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers case, is that we learned the RV was not parked at the job site. I confirmed this many months ago, or actually just a few months ago when I was in Memphis. This was back in June. I confirmed that there was no way his RV could have been parked at the job site. There's a liability issue. These are big projects. If anything happens to him or his personal property, the hospital, not the builder, but the hospital could be on the hook. And that's why they can't have that parked at those job sites. He also confirmed that there was no RV in Memphis that he stayed at. So we know he stayed over in Mississippi. I believe he's been at the Yogi Bear campground from the beginning, and it's based upon a statement that he made in one of his interviews, and it was that when he contracts a job, he usually goes to a campground and pays for a full month in advance or the entire term of his employment for that particular project. So I believe that that's the reason why they had to go back to that campground and why they had to go back to that very public lot number, is because that's the one he rented for the duration. I still say he rented a vehicle. That's why people didn't think he was still at the campground. It is possible. And there was other places he could have parked and walked to the campground as well. There's 2 gas stations and a parts store right down the road from him. And the great thing about the parts store is you can't even see their parking lot from any of the roadways. They have these shrubs and they're elevated a little higher. And with the shrubs, you can't even see who's parked in the parking lot. So that would be a good place for him to have parked. But either way, that's an assumption. We don't know whether that to be true, but we do know that they were at the Yogi Bear campground. That seemed to be their favorite campground. Even when everybody was searching and doing things, they seemed to have gone right back to that place and stayed there for a significant amount of time, at least the camper itself. So that is why I believe that that's where he was originally at. I believe he paid for and he could not get that money refunded, so he just left the camper there. That's just a possibility. I don't know that to be a fact. That's just my opinion of us, just assuming these things, because we know factually that camper was there. We know factually that the mom and stepdad ran off in the middle of search efforts back to that very campground, and we know that camper had stayed there for a significant time thereafter they returned, what we believe when they returned home. Shady, not to trust. That's what was acknowledged. People at the job site thought he was shady, thought he could not be trusted, and he was relieved at 11 a.m. And I told you, you're going to need to focus on that 11 a.m. and we're going to dovetail that back. He arrived at work at 6:30 and his focus was off unlike any other day, and didn't even report Sebastian missing to work. They had no clue until law enforcement showed up to question what happened that morning. He didn't even tell his business. And you know what? That's also key, because when he got home, he made sure that he went out to the news crews and told them, do not film his home. This is somebody that wanted to keep this child's disappearance to an ultra low. He didn't tell his work. He didn't want cameras on his home. This is a missing autistic, medically needy boy that he did not want attention being brought to. And that was relevant and prevalent up front on the day that this happened. So I find that interesting. But what is more interesting than that is the fact that this now confirms that it took the stepdad less than 3 hours to get home from Memphis. If he left at 11 a.m., we know by his own words and other interviews, and we're about to go over one on the YouTube channel later today. It's Smiley's World interview. This is going to be a very long, drawn out, but very informative live that I'm going to have on YouTube later today. And on the Smiley's World interview, Chris states out of his own mouth that he got home 1 something, okay? If he got kicked off the job at 11 to 12, 12 to 1. It is my belief he got there from other information between 1:30 and 1:45 that day. 1:30 to 1:45 that day. That's 2.5 hours to 2 hours and 45 minutes. And look at the time, 11 a.m. And he arrived home before 2 p.m. That's before 3 hours. That's before. Okay, because he got home at 1 something. Again, 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes during lunch rush. That's another critical element that you need to know. He left work at 11 a.m. He would have been driving during the lunch rush and still managed to get home in less than 3 hours. This is important because during the Nancy Grace interview, he states that it is 3 hours and 37 minutes doorstep to doorstep. Yet on the day his stepson went missing, he was home in under 3 hours. In under 3 hours. This is important because at night, we see those light videos. We see that unknown vehicle in that photo turning on their lights. We hear from Miss Bobby, a neighbor that watched these videos and stated that they saw flashlights go to a car. A car was there 3 to 5 minutes. These flashlights approach and one heads back toward the Proudfoot home. These are information that we learned from eyewitnesses, and we have receipts because we have the lights video that was released by Nick Barris. So there is definitely something going on, and we learned from Miss Bobby, the neighbor, that this happened anywhere between 3 and 4 a.m. She said 3:30 to 4 o'clock in the morning, a half hour. Because they had to... because there was something with the date and time being stuck, they had to watch the video forward. Many people, law enforcement, tried to get us to believe that this was a trash truck. However, according to Miss Bobby, the neighbor, she stated that no, it could not have possibly been a trash truck because 2 hours after this event happened, they could see the trash truck come in and they could see the school bus come in. So they deducted that this had to have happened, this event, even though those times were stuck. They know when the school bus comes in and they know when the trash truck comes in. So they were able to take the time away, and that's where they determined that this had to have happened between 3:30 and 4. Because of that, because of the time being stuck, I've decided to be a little more liberal and say that the event happened between 3 and 4 a.m. because, human nature, we all make mistakes, and even watching that and going back and timing it and knowing it was around 2 hours doesn't, it could have been 2 hours and 15 minutes. It could have been 2 hours and 2.5 hours. So I did want to make sure that we accounted for that. So between 3 and 4 is when these light sources on the outside of their home actually took place. So I thought that was bombshell information because we've been told 3.5 hours, and now we have proof that it is possible that Chris can make it from Memphis to home in under 3 hours. Very, very critical, very, very important to this particular case. I hope you guys get over. We did a great interview, or not a great interview, excuse me, a great review of this information as well as others on my YouTube channel, Bullhorn Betty. It's where I have an ability to break things down. I have the ability to put a couple screens up and show you guys, so you guys have good visual information and stuff. A little different from here and the green screens I can use behind me. I'm able to show videos, we're able to see me, and I'm able to break down the interviews side by side. So, we are learning some information about this case, and it really is sad, but I absolutely, without a doubt, believe that there are deadly secrets that they are keeping. We're going to be going over later today. We're going to be going over more deep dives into hey Sonia, good morning, my love, good morning. We're going to be taking more time out to go over some more interviews about this and discussing their behind closed doors. Where is Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers? If you have any information about this young boy, if you have any firsthand knowledge that could help bring this boy home, I'm going to ask you to stop what you're doing right now and dial 911 because I believe that it's an emergency situation. If you have any information to bring this young boy home, if you have any information, don't want to call 911, please reach out to Dog the Bounty Hunter, which is 833-TELL-DOG. You can reach out to the Memphis FBI office with your lead, with your information, or you can reach out to 1-800-TBI-FINE. I put those in the order of which I think you should contact them. Memphis FBI is doing a great job. They're the ones that were able to get this $50,000. Dog the Bounty Hunter was able to match it, but what I like about Dog and his team is he works hand in hand in making sure law enforcement gets all the relevant leads they need, and it takes a lot of burden off of law enforcement vetting the lead and stuff like that. With Dog and his team doing it, they have a lot of attorneys, they have a lot of investigators, private investigators. They just have a tap into a lot of great people that can do a lot of great things here in this case of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. And we're going to be discussing again more details of their interviews. A few takeaways that I did get so far of this is the first 3 interviews that they provided to the world. They never brought up the him taking out the garbage as his chore. They never talked about leaving the home. As a matter of fact, they specifically stated that within a few minutes, they immediately called the Sumner County Sheriff. We learned that is not true. We never heard of the mom, I just said leaving the home, never heard of the thud, and never knew of the nieces or cousins or having to pick those up. Those did not start being talked about until after the lights video was dropped by Nick Barris. And then within days, you see a completely different demeanor from the mom and the stepdad. They seemed a little more brash. They wanted people to hit them with the hard answers. They go on Dutches. You hear them and they're not happy. And then you hear them on where they soften up the tone a little bit on Chronicles of Olivia. And then they just go scorch earth on Smiley's World. So we're going to be, and then Web Sleuths as well. We haven't quite gotten there yet. So what we're trying to do on the YouTube channel is take what's going on in the news and apply that to their interviews. And what we found out is that once that Lights interview dropped, where it was clear that something was going on the outside of that home, they changed, and so did their story. So please consider subbing up to our YouTube channel, Bullhorn Betty Crime Stories. And we're also got Bullhorn Betty 2.0 on here that I need to build up and start doing other things with. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers needs to be brought home. This is a Tennessee case. That means no charges will be brought. Nobody will be held accountable, and justice will not be served in that state unless they have a conviction or the child or victim. That is it. I have not seen a successful circumstantial case ever in Tennessee. Does that mean that they've never had one? No, I just can't find it. So that's the kind of state we're dealing with. And since that's the kind of state we're dealing with, that is why the pressure is on to find this boy and get as many people out there in the woods searching for him lawfully. Stay off private property. And you're more than welcome to go on private property with the permission of the homeowner. And also people with sonar and side imaging and boats. We need those under all the bridges in Sumner County. Every single bridge needs to be searched. Every one. So even if you're out there on a leisurely boat ride, you're out there to fish, you got side imaging, and you got sonar. Just every time you go under a bridge, just make a couple extra passes under that bridge and scan it. That is a huge help. Doesn't disrupt your day at all. You have your day of fishing and everything like that, and you're clearing bridges. If that's you and you're doing that, please reach out to me and let me know what bridges you cleared. If you could do that much, that extra step, that would be great. You can do that by reaching out to bullhornbetty@gmail.com, bullhornbetty@gmail.com. I'm very appreciative of the people that didn't allow the bullying and intimidation to affect them. Big shout out to CJ, big shout out to Narkid Diver, and to all the other teams that are out there that are just working to bring this boy home. Thank you. Guys, you make it a great day. Happy Monday. There is your update for Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. Go make it count. Please take that information and run with it. There is a possibility of the stepfather making it home in under 3 hours. He didn't even tell his work. He had a missing child? What? Like literally, if they didn't kick him off the job, he would have literally been there all day working. I want that to sink in. I want that to sink in. This is not normal behavior for parents of a missing child. I'm sorry, it's just not. You have your opinion, I have mine. Anyways, guys, rock it out with your coffee beans out. Don't forget to be fearless. If you see something, say something. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And until next time, please be safe, but more importantly, please be kind to one another. God bless.